Before we begin, I'd like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Lately, I've been going through several Skillshare courses, and honestly, I love them and I've been learning a lot. I went through this course, YouTube Success, Script, Shoot, and Edit with MKBHD, taught by tech YouTuber Marcus Brownlee. Last month, he put out a video and within a week got over 7 million views. Where are you going to find a teacher like that? Of course, it's not just all about views, but Marcus is just an example of the quality and results-driven creators that Skillshare has in its knowledge arsenal. Whatever our passion may be, Skillshare gives us access to the people and tools that can help us to share it with the world. Learn virtually any skill, whether it's photography, filmmaking, or graphic design. Skillshare will help you to unlock your creative potential and stand out from the crowd. If that's what you want, then check out the link in the video description. The first 1,000 viewers who use the link in the video description will receive a free 1-month trial to Skillshare Premium. So try it out and unlock your creativity with Skillshare today. So those of us who are somewhat familiar with the history of ancient Mesopotamia have all heard of the cities of Uruk, Ur, and Babylon. These cities are all extremely old, but there's one, at least according to Sumerian myth and legend, that's the oldest of them all. Eridu. After the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. In Eridu, Alulim became king. He ruled for 28,800 years. Alalgar ruled for 36,000 years. 2 kings, they ruled for a total of 64,800 years. Then Eridu fell, and the kingship was taken to Bad Tabira. These are the words from a document known as the Sumerian King List, which gives, according to Sumerian tradition, not just the first rulers of the world, but also the respective cities that they ruled from. Though we have no way of proving any of this, for the Sumerians, the king list outlined part of their history, and according to it, the first king ruled from Eridu. Not just this, but Sumerian and later Babylonian tradition also states that along with being the first kingdom, Eridu was the first city ever to have been established on Earth. Archaeologists, though, are not so sure, as most contend that Jericho is much older. Even in Mesopotamia, the urban center of Uruk was likely to have been the first to have obtained city status. However, the site of Eridu may have contained a modest settlement before that of Uruk. Archaeologists have determined that Eridu may have been inhabited as far back as 8,000 BC. That's 10,000 years ago. The site of Eridu consists of 7 mounds that are today located on the floodplains of southern Iraq. Excavations first began in 1854 and continued periodically up until 1949. Though a lot of pottery shards, ceramic objects, and tools were found, one of the highlights of these excavations was the sequence of 18 superimposed successive layers of a temple, dating from approximately 6000 BC at the earliest level to about 3000 BC for the most recent one. Initially, the temple was a simple room no larger than 3 square meters with an altar at one end and a stand upon which the ashes and traces of fish bones were discovered. These were believed to have been offerings dedicated to the one who would eventually become the patron deity of Eridu, the god Enki. In Sumerian religion and mythology, Enki is the god of fresh waters and knowledge. In the 3rd millennium BC, Eridu became an important Sumerian city-state. Though not considered to be as powerful as its neighbors, namely the city-states of Uruk, Ur, and Lagash, Eridu was revered as a religious center by the general Sumerian population, and due to this, many kings from outside the city lavished its temples with all sorts of extravagance. For example, King Ur-Nammu, the founder of the powerful Third Dynasty of Ur and the Neo-Sumerian Empire, built a large ziggurat and renovated the temple dedicated to Enki. Such traditions were continued by other kings for at least the next 1500 years, with notable rulers on record being the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal and the Neo-Babylonian ruler Nebuchadnezzar II. Though a part of great empires, Eridu was never the center or capital of one. Eridu was believed to have been occupied at least up until the Achaemenid Persian period, but once the region became rapidly Hellenized after 300 BC, during the Seleucid period, it, along with most of the other old cities of ancient Mesopotamia, were abandoned. Part of the reason may have been the fading importance of, and lack of state sponsorship, for the Temple of Enki, but there was probably also a practical reason for the city's demise, specifically, lack of water. As the course of the Euphrates shifted and the city's religious importance waned, it just didn't make sense for people to stay in Eridu when there were better opportunities elsewhere. And so, the city was gradually abandoned and eventually fell into ruin. Today, these ruins are in the middle of the Iraqi desert, where it's hard to believe that a thriving city at the edge of the Persian Gulf once existed. To learn more about Eridu and Sumer in general, check out the video on the Sumerians, which I'll link to in the video description. As always, thanks so much for stopping by, I really appreciate it. I'd also really like to thank GrandKek69, Yap de Graaf, Pasta Frola, Michael Lewis, Daniel Allen, Danny Vanek, Wenix TV, Robert Morgan, Frank, Tim Lane, Brandon Redman, Candace Whipple, Faridun Dadachanji, Sher Cam, Farhad Kama, and all of the channel's patrons on Patreon for helping to support this and all future content. Check out the benefits to being a Patreon member, and if you'd like to join, feel free to click the link in the video description. You can also follow History with Sai on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as continue to listen to special audio programs on the History with Sai podcast. Thanks again, and stay safe.